morning, everybody, to FAC Live, a First Atlantic commerce show that covers all things e-commerce Caribbean. We have guests from different islands who've agreed to share insight into the digital world we have been forced to grow accustomed to. Today, I am so excited to have our first guest on the First Atlantic Commerce LinkedIn page platform because I'm going to tell you a story about that just now. But Christianne is joining us from the ANSA McAl Group. She's based in Trinidad and Tobago, and she has some great insight into industry, who is no stranger to digital transformation, which is the financial industry. And today we are first time on LinkedIn Live because LinkedIn has seen it fit to authorize us to do live shows on their platform. Insert audience applause here. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right? So stick around. Make sure to smash that follow button if you're watching this on LinkedIn Live. Follow the First Atlantic Commerce page because that's where you're going to get notified on our next show. And we have folks from across the islands. We have a guest from Jamaica as well who's going to talk about investment. So don't worry, this is all in your benefit. And if you are somebody who runs a business and grappling with COVID-19 and what is required of all of us, stick around because this is a discussion that you need to have, as well as if you're a marketing manager and still have to convince people that digital is the way forward, you need to stick around. So I'm joined today, I'm going to add our guest, not only Christianne de Freitas from ANSA, but as well the CEO of First Atlantic Commerce, Chris Burns. He's going to bring the perspective as it relates to the CEO of an organization who also has been grappling with the remote working because Chris is somebody who's accustomed traveling and that's no longer happening. Right? But before we get into Chris' side of things, let's introduce Christianne de Freitas. Can you share a little bit of where you work and the job position that you hold?
Sure. Thanks so much, Pauline. Good morning to everyone viewing. So I am the Digital Strategy Manager for the financial services sector at the ANSA McAl Group. So that means I'm responsible for digital transformation, all digital projects across our financial services companies, which includes our insurance companies and our banking companies.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute there. We're working on real time here. So I'm going to bring Chris into the mix and ask him what has changed since the COVID-19 lockdown because he's currently based in Bermuda. And as the CEO of an organization, that digital transformation, was it difficult for you guys at First Atlantic Commerce?
Yeah, hi, good morning to everybody. It's been a real adjustment for me personally. As you said, I'm used to traveling sort of every 2 or 3 weeks through the Caribbean and Central America. So I am now coming up to a year of being here in Bermuda. And if you know anything about Bermuda, it's a very small place, 22 square miles. So to try and be here for that amount of time has been a challenge, just from a personal perspective. But there are certainly worse places to be locked down in, for sure. So I'm certainly grateful for that. And Bermuda has done an incredible job in sort of managing the spread of the virus here, and everybody's starting to get vaccinated now. So it's hopefully the light at the end of the tunnel as far as Bermuda is concerned. Obviously, it's a bigger challenge on a global basis, but from a work perspective, generally as an organization, we already had a number of people that work remotely for us in different parts of the world. So we cover 30 different countries, between our clients and bank relationships. We have people that work for us in Canada, out of Miami, out of Honduras, out of South Africa, and also here in Bermuda. So, for half our organization, really it was not a lot of change in terms of the way that they, work and communicate with the rest of our business and our customers. But certainly for our sort of, senior team that are based here and used to being in the office, it was a real adjustment, but one that I'm really pleased to say that everybody really kind of took in their stride, because we had a lot of the technology and infrastructure already in place to support some of our remote workers. Just, and I think, once everybody went into it, there was that initial sort of surge of adrenaline, where everybody is, coping with it, and, it's kind of new and interesting. A year down the line, that kind of wears off and the shine of it kind of wears off a little bit. And, I think we're grateful now to be able to open up the office again, to have that opportunity for people to come in when they want to, and break that monotony of, walking out of your bedroom to your kitchen table and starting working, and just break up that day a little bit. I think people are actually happy a little bit to commute again, even though it's not a long commute here in Bermuda, just to break the day up and give a little bit of opportunity to do something else apart from just work.
Right. So I'm going to drill you about what you've been seeing with the e-commerce trends in the Caribbean, because a lot of people think that you just put up a website and your customers are going to come. But that's where the question is going to be directed to Christianne right now, which is, what is a digital strategy? Because I feel like marketing is going through an identity crisis, and has been for quite some time, which people are not sure exactly where it all, Facebook is not marketing. So your definition, Christianne, can you share with us what a digital strategy is?
Yeah, so my definition for what a digital strategy is has changed during the course of COVID-19. What happened was, before COVID hit, this was a new department to this sector and really to the group. We were starting exploring the power of digital, and the question you're asking is a question that I got asked a lot in the office. We had a lot of the executive level and the MDs. What is it that you're going to do? What is it that we need to do in terms of digital? And it's like, you don't want to just be digital for the sake of saying you're digital. So I had to work and figure out what the priorities were. And our first priority was digitizing customer-facing business processes where we could, in order to make life easier for the customer. So we're always looking at how can we make it easier for our clients to do business with us. We are a paper-heavy industry by nature, and it's something that we are trying to move away from. So that's where we started at the beginning of 2020, and then we very quickly spiraled into, we need to really expand what the strategy is. We need to be not only making business easier, but we need to be speaking to our clients where they are, which is now totally online because we were in a state of shutdown. We need to be able to actually service them digitally because they can't come into a branch. Even though we, as financial services, we were operating during the shutdown because we were considered essential business. Of course, we wanted to protect our clients. We didn't want them having to come out during a shutdown to come into our offices. So the digital strategy became, how can we become customer-centric in everything that we do digitally? So it was about developing digital assets to serve our clients, as well as we're now taking on the role of digital marketing, which traditionally lay with our marketing department. And that has now moved into our digital strategy department because we're starting to really, really understand the impact of marketing in supporting your digital assets, and how we can't just build tools to make client life easier online, like client-facing tools, and not bring the clients to them. So our digital marketing is shifting now as well, more to helping clients to engage with us easier, and actually being able to service clients digitally via, whether it's artificial intelligence via our chatbot or even on our social channels. We have converted these really into a heavy digital customer service channel on the back end in our inboxes and so on. So the digital strategy as it stands right now is all about customer-centric, data-driven. Where do our customers need us to meet them? What can we do digitally to ease the pain of doing business in a COVID world? And what can we add to our offerings to the client, really in an agile and quick way digitally, to make it easier to get serviced by our companies?
I feel like you were talking to me when you talked paper heavy because I had to renew my health insurance, and she handed me so much paper. I walked out because I just felt. I know it seems silly, but I just felt so overwhelmed. I was like, you know what? I can't do this right now. I literally just came to take my card, and it just didn't make any sense. So I'm sure a lot of folks out there can relate to that. And if you have any questions for Christianne, please let us know. We do have a Q&A session in the last 15 minutes of this live. So I want to take the digital strategy conversation across to Chris and speak about companies that are shifting across to e-commerce, because we see the success of Amazon in the Caribbean. I have the data. It's been the top 10 visited sites across all the Caribbean islands for quite some time. So we do have consumers online. What advice would you give to someone who's new to e-commerce space when it comes to setting up? So they have the website, they have their products and services, and they're just sitting down there saying, okay, customers, let's go. What advice would you give to that person?
Well, I'm really glad you asked that question, actually, because we've been talking a lot about that, this year in particular, because we have had this, enormous surge of businesses going online over the last sort of 8 to 9 months, and we saw, I think Q3, Q4, we put 1,000% more clients live than we did in the same quarter the year before. So it's a great, okay, massive surge. We've got everybody up and running. Now what? And I think, that's what a lot of companies have been faced with, that they've just gone, okay, great. We've got to get online. We've got to get online. And everybody's talking about getting online and digital strategies and all the rest of it. And then they get online and they haven't planned past that. So how do we, it's not a question of build it and they will come. It's okay, build it. And now what are we going to do to drive that traffic to the sites? And, and I think it really depends on the particular business that you're in. So, if you are, in the retail space, there's your social media strategy is going to be very important. Are you, is your target audience on Facebook? Are they on Instagram? Are they both? What are you going to do? How is your marketing going to be different on Facebook than it is on Instagram? Are you using things like link trees, just to be able to get people quickly to the products and services that they're seeing pictures of on your Instagram account, for example? And then how are you potentially enabling them to make that impulse purchase at the time of seeing it? And you used Amazon as an example earlier, and I think we're all guilty of that, of seeing an advert, getting linked through to Amazon, seeing a product, there's one-click payment options on there, and suddenly before you know it, you bought a 50-inch TV when you were looking at shoes, something like that. So if you can enable that payment and that purchase, that's super important. You need to be able to do that, not let that person get away and think about it and then rationalize whether they want to really need to purchase that or not, because you've lost an opportunity there. And then I think it's important to promote the fact that if you are a local business, that just precisely that you are a local business, and encouraging people to buy locally, opposed to just filling Jeff Bezos's pockets to becoming the now second richest man in the world. So I think that is an important part of the strategy, and we see that a lot in especially in Bermuda. There's a sort of buy BDA banner and marketing that's pushed locally quite heavily, not just by individual businesses, but by the Chamber of Commerce, by the Business Development Agency, and everybody working in conjunction to promote that message. And I would, if there's what I want here in Bermuda, I always want to buy it here, to support the local economy. It's much easier in terms of, you get that instant gratification in terms of actually getting the product as well. And personally, it makes me feel good to be able to support our local small businesses rather than just order everything online. So I think that's an important part of the strategy as well. But get your marketing strategy right. And if you're a smaller business or like an SME, and the people that are in your business are not marketing savvy, then look to outsource that. Don't try and make it up yourself, because there's a reason there's experts in that space, and the reason that you pay them.
Great. So I want to shift the conversation over to individuals who may be in a bigger organization like Christianne. And the digital transformation has been sort of a trending conversation, but not necessarily people understanding what that means. And I think the space that you're in, Christianne, is even a great conversation to have with, Elon Musk looking at Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. So all this discussion around change is evolving. But I want to ask you to share with our audience, what advice would you give to them when it comes to the challenges that they will face? Because you're going to meet a lot of buyers, as you mentioned earlier. What is digital strategy? So what advice would you give to somebody who's trying to get their organization to shift across to the digital space?
Sure, that's a great question. First and foremost, something that I think is really, really the most important is to prioritize your digitization. And it's really important to look at it from the point of view of your clients. Internally, we all want things for our business lines, for our companies that are going to make our lives easier as employees. It's going to make it makes sense to us from the internal perspective. It's really important to do customer journey mapping of all of your customers, all of your products and services, and use that to determine what your priority should be, and to meet the customer where they want to be met and not where you think you can operate or where you think you should go to and then the customers will come. It's really important to try and find that sweet spot where they want you to meet them and to go there. In terms of what we're doing in financial services, our market, as far as we see it internally, is not ready for a fully digital experience just yet. So it's really important for us to look at each company, each product line, and see where it is that we step in digital. What part of the process do we come in and then come back out? At what part do we allow the traditional agent to go back in? What part do we require a walk in to CSR to verify documents? And so that is, you need to really map that out so you can understand where your priorities lie. And then once you understand where your priorities lie, business discovery after that is just of immense importance. So it's so important to speak to each department or manager or business line that you're going to be working with or you're going to be developing a digital strategy for, and really completely understand their needs, understand what is it that the client is experiencing trouble with from them. In terms of COVID-19, what is it that has been affected by COVID-19? Where can we step in and make some quick and agile, really fast changes that are going to make a huge impression? And what is it that we need to do in a longer term, sort of slower process? And in terms of getting all of those aligned in a large business, like what I have to do is I have different companies, and within the companies I have different business lines. So we have to really try and align that transformation, whether it is just application forms becoming digital, implementing our online payment portals. We couldn't just do that across the board because some products we did not, for various reasons, we didn't want it with online payments as yet. So we had to say, okay, what is priority? It was our motor policies and our property policies, and we got that up online really fast with FAC. And then, what is the rollout plan behind that? What's phase 2? What's phase 3? And the rationale to those things. And then when these digital tools go live and things start happening automated online, your back office now needs to be prepared for what's incoming. So your staff who's traditionally just been dealing with links machines and checks and lots of paper processing are now getting emails saying, oh my gosh, somebody just paid $70,000 in a policy online. Okay, what's happening, right? So you need to have that training. You need that process mapped internally for your back office, and you really need these things written down and mapped on, shared documents online that they can refer to, so that there's not a whole lot of questioning. Okay, so Pauline gets the payment. Make sure that Pauline applies that to the customer account, unless you have a fully automated system, which we don't have as yet, but will be coming on soon. So you really need to have that back office plan, because what I've seen, the possibility of happening is we do all of this wonderful client facing stuff, and it falls down in reconciliation on the back end, and then your client is still suffering with pain of payments or pain of doing business online. So I think that's what I have to say on that right now, Pauline.
Awesome. OC shouted out to me and told me my audio was low, so I had to pull down my mic. So if you are hearing me, let me know, OC, and let me know if the audio has changed. So you heard it first. Christianne mentioned that new stuff is coming from ANSA. So can we say that that's the exclusive?
Sure, Pauline. That's we have lots of we're working hard. I mean, every day to just fill gaps and meet the clients where they are. There's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of work we're doing. It's a lot, and we do have new stuff, client-facing tools and so on coming up very soon. And we have done that in the past. We've done a lot with our insurance companies, and we're continuing to roll that out across the sector. And it's a very exciting time. What has happened, which is really exciting for me, is before COVID-19, there was, all of the sort of global digitization issues around how do you develop a digital strategy and how do you digitize a business, which would be, red tape within all of the different levels of approvals. Budgets were really tight, really hard to get a budget for digital. Everybody's like, what is digital and how do we touch it and feel it? And I can't put it in my board report, so I need to know. And we had these long-winded approval processes, and then of course we had really long testing. So tools that we launched in 2019 went through a lot longer testing process than what we've launched at the end of 2020. And then of course the market was slow to adopt, so we had a much slower release into the market of our new digital touchpoints. And we were fearful of adoption by the market. The market proved us wrong and adopted really quickly what we put out there. And then, of course, we have our executives demanding immediate ROI, which is something that's really hard to come by in digital. So what COVID-19 has done for me, which makes me really excited, the barriers have fallen away. There's a lot of push and drive, get it done quickly. And that's because what has, globally, everyone's saying it was meant to be a slow rollout over a few years. And we've all just pressed X and really X the board, just developing and rolling things out really quickly. So it's super exciting for me because we've just shifted to this customer-centric view, where budgets have become more available, approvals are quicker, barriers have dropped, and we're just pushing ahead in a really excited pace.
That is great to hear, because as a consumer, I just feel like I am going to benefit from this, because then my life is going to be much easier. And I love the discussion about, things are being fast forward, things that we thought would take 10 years to happen. Because there are two sides, right? There's the business side, which, you have to get the buy-in of the business decision makers, but you also have the consumer who may be accustomed to certain things. I actually had an organization in Barbados where we were the first to just be completely online. This was about 7 years ago. And I will never forget a consumer was like, what is this online thing while they're just talking about? Can I just have a paper and fill it out? And it's so interesting because now we've come into understanding that digital is not an option. So I want to talk to Chris about digital as it relates to the strategy for First Atlantic Commerce, right? So I'm going to give you guys a little backstory, a little exclusive, right? Because the initial discussion I had with Chris when my company came on board is he was of the opinion that he needed to get an SEO company. And I said, no, no, no. I think you need content marketing. So, Chris, with that said, can you share with our audience how your mindset may have changed in the last year as it relates to the digital strategy for First Atlantic Commerce?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just, wanted to touch on something quickly that Christianne said as well about the ROI on the sort of internal sort of digital strategy as well. And that's something that everybody's going to wrestle with, and it is hard to quantify sometimes because there are soft elements to that you can't necessarily put a hard number to, right? So we, with that massive sort of influx of new merchants last year, it forced us to, bring up in timeline some of our own automation internally in terms of things that we were doing manually. And, that some of that was just to, make sure that, our team members didn't explode with the amount of new work that was coming in. So, there is, if the ROI there is that, you don't want to lose good people because you have older, digital strategies internally within your own infrastructure. So that's super important. And I think, also in terms of the general ROI is that, it's retaining customer base as well. So if you're not, it's like when you go to a hotel now, you just expect to have free Wi-Fi wherever you are in the hotel. And if you don't, your opinion of that hotel just immediately drops. So it's going to be the same with financial institutions as well. It's like, if I can't do this online, I'm just going to go somewhere else. Even though I may have been here for a while, or I like the person I used to speak to, this is just not convenient for me anymore. And this other company is doing that as well. So yes, it's important to measure the ROI in terms of getting new business, but you have to look at, internally about retaining talent, but also, externally in terms of retaining your existing customer base. Because as we all know from a marketing perspective, it's much more expensive to acquire new customers than it is to keep your existing customers. So our view on digital, and fine, you're absolutely right. So it was like, how do we get our message out more? How do we get more people seeing what we're doing? And you're right. Absolutely, my opinion was, okay, well, we need to spend more money on SEO, and that's what we should do. And I'm not the marketing person here, but I think I've certainly had my mind changed on that. So especially within the market that we're in, there's such a lack of content that's focused directly on the Caribbean. And I go to a lot of like sort of Visa conferences or MasterCard conferences, and it's the Latin America Caribbean conference. But I can assure you the C is a very small C when it comes to the content of, number of transactions or merchants or whatever it is. So trying to get this data for our part of the world is really, really hard. So I definitely see the value in creating the content that's specific to our region, because that's where our customers are. They might be selling out into the rest of the world, but in reality, we're dealing with very local issues, right? And those are the bits that we should be focusing on through all our businesses.
Well, anybody who knows me know how passionate I am about content, Caribbean content. That small C has been the bane of my existence for quite some time, because we are in a position in Latin America. It's just like, okay, there's those islands down there, there's those islands down there that just happen to be close to Latin America. So I think I want to have a conversation around digital assets. We have quite a number of questions, and I'm going to get to it. I think it'll probably be sooner than the 15 minutes that I thought. But I want your take, both Christianne and Chris, about what you think a digital asset is and why it's important for companies out there to make sure that they have that as part of their digital strategy. So we're going to be back in a couple of seconds. with Christianne. The question, if you missed it, is what is a digital asset and why should your business be building on that?
I love this question. So, a digital asset, in my view of digital strategy, is any tool that is available digitally or online, whether it's web based or not. And it's an asset because it improves somebody's life and adds value somewhere. So, example, you may have an internal digital asset, such as we have tools now in our life insurance company for the agents to use on the field for more efficient and accurate advising. Those are digital assets. They're digital calculators on tablets. That would be an internal digital asset that improves the life of the client, of the agent. The customer facing side of that is that it also improves the life of the client because it gives the client faster advising, and it also gives them a tool that they can play with themselves, and it gives them more accurate and a faster experience with the agent on the field. What I would call a client-facing digital asset is something like what we have on our websites. On the Tatil website, we have a lot of calculators for various tools, both the general insurance and life insurance companies. So that would be a digital asset that is client-facing, that is meant to improve the ease of doing business with us and to give our clients something valuable that they can use and actually find value in digitally.
Great. So, Chris, what about you? Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute. Hi, Chris. There we go.
Sorry. Yeah, I was actually starting to think about this a lot more the other day in terms of actually feeling that FAC itself is a digital asset. And what got me thinking about it more was that somebody made an introduction to us, somebody that I know well, and to a new client. And he referred to us as FAC as the gatekeeper for transactions in the Caribbean. And, you know, in some regards, that's true because we do connect, you know, to all the different banks in the Caribbean to facilitate payments. But, you know, actually, I prefer to view us more as a facilitator for e-commerce in general within the region, because, you know, it's, you know, without that crucial part that is payments, which is a digital process, you know, the business can't continue to grow and thrive, especially in the current environment, and, you know, the demands from the customers going forward. So that's you know, I view our entire company now as a digital asset to the region and to the economy as a whole, and that's really, you know, where I want us to be focused on, because, you know, we're not a bank, we're not a financial institution, you know, we're not driving KYC policy or AML or anything like that. And, you know, I think a lot of people do think of us as a bank, but we're not. We're a small software company, and that's the way we like to be. So, and, you know, we don't make decisions on who gets a merchant account or who doesn't get a merchant account, or anything of that nature. Is we're not Visa or MasterCard. We're not creating the policy in terms of your PCI compliance or anything like that. You know, we're here to create technology that enables people to grow their business, start their business, and reach out to the world.
Great. So I'm going to chime in here and share my perspective on it as well, which is, I think about it as something, first, from a small business perspective, because that's where my point of view is coming from, is something that allows you to not have to engage with in order for the process to happen. So a good example for First Atlantic Commerce is when we started these live sessions, Chris would be like, yeah, just send me an email. I'm like, what are you doing, Chris? No. Then your entire email inbox is just going to be flooded. So what we did is we created a landing page that allows people to sign up, and there's a whole workflow involved that includes showing you how to sign up, all the different elements of the process, that then now eliminates any human interaction required for that person to be onboarded and just have an understanding of the business. Yes, they will eventually speak to somebody when they're ready to sign up, but that process in itself can take a lot of effort and time, which, I mean, everybody knows not we don't have much time. As much as we're spending so much time on Zoom calls, it can be a little overwhelming. So for me, that as a small business owner is one of the things I look at as a digital asset. So we're going to shift the conversation now to digital touch point. Yes, there are a lot of terminologies, guys. Stick with us. It'll make sense. It will all make sense. I do have a few questions that are being asked, and I'm going to ask them after this question. But similar to the digital asset question, Christianne, can you share some insight into the new digital touch points that you've been able to implement during the lockdown?
Sure. So a major one for us was implementing our chatbot for the Tattles. That was something that we really wanted to create a digital customer service touchpoint. We are now moving into phase 2. So the bot is operational. And it's learning every day. We use an intercom bot. It's really intelligent. And we're building further conversations into that bot now. And we're learning from what is it that clients want to do online. And how can we keep adding to this AI and solving these issues online where the clients already are and resolving it right there and closing it. And that is something that I would consider a touch point because it's the actual point of contact with the client where we are servicing the client in a real and genuine way. Our payment portal with FAC is another digital touch point because it's somewhere where we resolve your issue completely, which is I want to pay my policy. I want to renew my policy. You come online, you renew it, and you're done. And we've completely resolved that for you. So, and that's a customer-facing touch point where the customer is making contact with us. So that's how I would differentiate an asset from a touch point. There definitely overlaps in terms of like our calculators would be digital assets because we've built these really hefty functional things, but the user interface is the touch point for the potential client or existing client to engage with our company and our products. Pauline, you're on mute. My favorite line of 2020.
Like, will we ever get accustomed to this? I have no idea.
We're smart people, but we just can't seem to figure this bit out for some reason. I don't know why.
I think it's one of those things where you have so many ideas and you're so busy you want to talk that the idea of clicking the mute is just, that's 2020 and 2021 problems. Don't worry.
Yeah.
So Chris, any additions to that?
Yeah, I think it's I think for a lot of people now there is a level of digitization that in terms of your contact with a company that are expected. Like, for like banking for me in general now, I never want to go into the bank unless I'm going to do something like maybe get a loan. I don't really want to do that online. There's going to be questions that I want to ask, and just understand that process a little bit more. But for general banking, transferring money, moving from one bank to another, I really don't want to have to go anywhere near a bank to do that, and it upsets me when I have to. But there's still a generation of people that like to do that. We've talked about that before. Right? It's part of the day out, right? It's go to the bank, stand in line, chat to their friends. But I think we're moving away from that rapidly. I mentioned insurance before. I had to reinsure my motorbike recently. It wasn't quite the experience I wanted, but I could do it over the phone and got everything emailed to me. But I want to be able to do that all online. Chatbots are great to a point. I think it depends what information you're looking for, and as Christianne was saying, and how much intelligence you've actually put in there. Past hello, how are you? Are you taking the time to actually really understand what people are asking it? Because otherwise it's a frustrating experience. What people do make some mistakes is that they put everything through that. And it's really hard to get to an individual if you want to. I get it for really big companies. Apple's quite bad at that, I find. But, trying to find a number to actually speak to a human being if you've got a more detailed question, is really hard, and it gets very frustrating. So that, I think you can't take it too far. I get it. We have a support team, which is a big part of what we do and a big part of our staff. And, we implemented a proper ticketing system last year. So we're trying to manage that. But again, we can see that people are just like, okay, great, thanks for automated response. But, now I need to speak to somebody real. So there's still going to be a balance to be struck there for quite a while. I mean, the technology is becoming really good. And, we have clients that have implemented ones where, with bill payment through a chatbot, it can recognize the account number. You can, put in a secure payment screen, and that's great. And that's really good. Fast food, like QSRs, quick serve restaurants. We have a client that has implemented some software across a number of the bigger chains, and the ordering through the bot is really good. So there's things like that, but like I said, you still don't want to lose that human element. But yeah, absolutely, there's just certain things that you're going to have to implement, or you're just going to lose customers. And that simple payment ability is one of them for sure. But also, the digital touch point in terms of, basic things like if you don't have a website. And it's amazing to think that some people still, businesses don't have a website. But if you can't find a website, your opinion of that business drops, right? And it's like, well, how serious is this business? They don't even have a website. And then, or they don't have a Facebook page. Instagram, I'm still on the fence with. It depends on the business. Do I want to sign up for Bank of America's Instagram page? Probably not. I don't know how interesting that's going to be. But Facebook, everybody's pretty much on that. You just make it easy to contact. Like, when you Google something, whatever business it is, you want that window to pop up, with the website, the phone number, whatever it is. And if those things are missing, again, your opinion of that business just drops immediately.
I find it so interesting you mentioned about needing to speak to somebody, and guys, this is real-time digital strategy conversations happening right here, because I am the demographic that I don't really want to speak to you. I don't even mind getting a loan completely online. Like that, to me, because I have spent so much time online, I'm comfortable with it. And I've seen many local businesses trying to combine the two, which I think is also extremely important when you have a specific demographic. But I'm the demographic, and I'm just like, I don't really need to talk to you, just deliver my makeup. I just... So it really depends on your strategy, and I think Christianne mentioned that earlier. If you missed the conversation, where have you been? You've been late, but that's okay. Once we are finished, you can catch it on the replay. So we're going to answer quite a number of questions, because I have a few. We're going to get to it in a second, but the first question is about the fear factor that certain people have when it comes to digital and technology. People usually associate it with being very expensive and having, everybody's referencing Terminator 1 and 2. The conversation around artificial intelligence is this fear factor. So I want both of you guys, before we're going to go on a quick break and come back, to think about the answer that you're going to share with our audience as to what conversation you're going to have with that individual that has that mental block. So stick around, guys. We'll be back in a couple seconds. So let's start with Christianne. Let's take the helm.
So this is something that I deal with a lot. We're financial services companies. We need to be really, really careful, and we need to be very cognizant of the fact that, first of all, locally our market has been reluctant to things such as payments online. And secondly, we do have a lot of sensitive information that we need to ensure is protected. So what I would say internally to someone who is maybe a decision maker who's hesitant about making a move or making a change, I really need to let them understand the security protocols we have. That we have, your suppliers are really, really, really important. Who you're working with, who your third-party suppliers. So a reason that we work with FAC, for example, is because of their security protocols and how tight that is and their reputation. You're working with people like Visa, who you're actually then falling back on their security and their insurances as well. In terms of how do you change the mind of someone who doesn't necessarily want to do their financial business online, or maybe doesn't want to share their personal data just to get a quotation online. Sometimes that is impossible to do, and we do have to end up just stepping in with the human factor. And it's important to understand where you draw that line and where you know that somebody doesn't want to be serviced digitally. But my perspective is, if you are coming into our digital assets through our digital marketing and the message is online on a website, and you have followed that message over to our tools where we're telling you, hey, come get a quotation online, come pay online, come see what we're doing here, that you're already in that frame of mind. So for us, it's not so much trying to convert people to use the digital tools and assets, but to meet the people who want it where they are. And that was another thing that happened during COVID-19, that we went from having a small group of people who wanted, like yourself and like me, to do everything online, and now we have vast majority of people wanting to conduct their financial transactions online. So it's always a balancing act. I think it depends a lot on your business. If your business model is to be completely online, then you really need to push your marketing in that direction and allay the fears of your consumers. For us, it's really to meet our consumers where we are. So we put all safety and protocols in place to really ensure that what we're saying is correct. Our data policies and privacy policies and our third-party security really ensure that when we're encouraging somebody to use our tools, that we internally feel safeguarded by what we've implemented.
Great. So, Chris, I want to have your perspective differently, in the sense that, people have this perception of e-commerce or lack thereof. So what shifts or what's their mindset that changes? What is it? Anything in particular that you say, okay, yes, after this hurdle has come over, they're like, okay, the gate is open, I'm open to digital.
Yeah, this is always a really tricky one for me, because there's a couple of schools of thought on it, in terms of, there's the Henry Ford quote, is, if I'd asked people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse, right? But then there's the other school of thought on it, basically saying that, maybe customers really do know what they want, but they don't know how to articulate it properly. And maybe what we should be doing is asking smarter questions of them to help them articulate that. So as Christianne was saying, so we can actually properly meet them where they are. But there is also, going to be a sort of a rip the Band-Aid off approach as well, with certain things like checks, for example. And Christianne will know about this, in the insurance space, in particular, certainly within our region, there is still, this real desire to get a check. I get a payout, I want a check. I want to have that physically in my hand, and I want to see it, and I want to see the zeros. And for me, again, it just blows my mind. And I think with things like that, I think that is going to have to be okay, look, we're just not doing checks anymore. We're just, it's expensive for a start, and it's just a bad way to do it. Whereas opposed to, there's tools out there now where you can pay out the customer within 30 minutes via their debit card, and go directly into their bank account. And that is, more secure than putting a check in the mail, that's for sure. And obviously a lot quicker. So, with e-commerce, and we have to, obviously, give people what they want, but people have to do their own research in a way as well. And I think, Pauline, you and I mentioned this like way back when we first started doing these. When the pandemic happened, there was an instance within Trinidad actually, where somebody posted something online where somebody, there's this huge queue of people outside one of the telcos, looking at people to pay their bill or top up their phones. And somebody was complaining about it and saying, look, this is outrageous. These guys should have technology to deal with this. And, within a 2-second Google search, you go to that company's website and the front page of their website says, pay your bills online. It's just, we hadn't either culturally got there or taken the time to actually see if that option was available. So yeah, I mean, we as consumers have to do a bit of research too, but we as businesses also need to make that information as readily available as possible, and find out within our individual markets how that is best consumed. Are people still listening to the radio, or are they reading, is somebody actually picking up a physical paper anymore, or those sorts of things. So it's the research around it. But marketing's hard sometimes because you just don't. It's hard, and it's getting easier to validate which spend you're making is returning to you. But still, there's a lot out there where you're not 100% sure whether what you're doing is actually resonating with people.
Well, I'm biased to where you should spend your money.
Yeah.
But always on digital, right?
Yeah.
I have 2 questions here. Also, Marcus made a comment, but I think Chris validated it. He differed on some things that Christianne mentioned. But if you guys want to learn what that is, go in the comment section and have your side hustle conversation, because we have 7 more minutes, right? So I want to answer these questions. So the first question is for Christianne, and then I have a separate question for Chris. So Christianne, who do you think should lead the digital strategy in an organization? The marketing head or the ICT lead? I love this question. As a former Microsoft employee, love it. Let's hear you.
So I sort of love-hate this question. We have IT lead, sector managers and group managers, and we have marketing departments as well. So we're in a unique position where we actually have a digital department. And how that came about was there was a bit of tension between, IT and marketing, and a bit of things falling in the cracks, because what you need is expertise. You need people who know what they're doing and what we want to do, and you need an ecosystem that works in tandem. So the way we operate here is we work in tandem with marketing and ITC, and you must, and every project you must work together. It's impossible to do it well separated. So what you really need is, yes, a head of digital who's going to be pushing that portfolio and focusing on those, but with the expertise and input for IT, especially when it comes to integrating with your core systems or making decisions around data, making decisions around security, making decisions around processes internally. You need IT with you. And then in terms of marketing, you need to be able to obviously support anything that you're putting in place, as well as feedback data into marketing, because what we are able to do with digital marketing and digital advertising is collect a whole host of data that feeds into traditional marketing. So that's my long-winded answer. My short answer is you need to have, for larger companies, a head of digital who works extremely closely with your head of IT and your head of marketing.
Awesome. So the next question is for Chris. Dwight, I hope that was the answer clearly for you. Let us know in the comments. So for Chris, this person wants to know, AC Phillips, did digital technology change your target customer since COVID-19? And does digital technology affect the value proposition to your target customer, old or new target customers?
So I'll answer the last bit first. Yeah, absolutely. I think the value of what we bring as a business has gone up in the estimation of most companies, because whereas there would have been a lot of companies out there that wouldn't necessarily be in the retail space that thought, okay, well, maybe we don't need to accept payments online. And this last year has shown us that, yeah, absolutely, you have to now. And so that's, sort of the value of, we're not a nice to have anymore. We're a must have in terms of a technology company. In terms of what we have targeted as a business, we had spent a lot of time, targeting our bank partners, and making sure that we had the infrastructure in place to support the end customer, which, in terms of your retail or restaurant or other technology providers. And so, but for us, really, we don't have a specific vertical. What we do is applicable to all business types. And as per my sort of previous answer there, that's just been highlighted by what we've all just gone through. So, I think that physical touch point in regards to payments is just going to be an addition to the other channels. It's not going to be the main way that people pay. There's smartphones are in everybody's hands now. In often countries now, there's more phones than people. So we're really just at a point now where the expectation is going to continue to build that we need to, I would just want to buy everything with my phone. And that goes into the physical world too. Like, as we digitize the cards and put them in wallets and use things like Apple Pay and Samsung Pay and whichever is going to be the prevalent wallet in your country, it's always going to be, it's moving towards phones. And again, this contactless type of feel now, whereas, people, don't necessarily want to handle cash. Cash was already dirty before this, right? But people just, you just didn't think about it, or you chose not to ignore it. But now there's just even more of an emphasis on it. So, personally, I want to get to a point where I just, I don't have cash, I don't have a wallet, I have my phone, and get into that. Or even take it a step further and, look at the biometric side of things. Like, have all my cards tied to my thumbprint, for example. And then you don't have to worry about data. You don't have to worry about, I forgot my phone. It's something that's always going to be with you, and just make it super easy and convenient to pay.
Great. So we have a couple more, seconds, but we'll just go a little bit over, guys. Stick around, don't worry. I have one last question for you two both, because we have vaccines on its way, and as with any time, you kind of have to think about hope and what that looks like. Give us a single opportunity that you believe has come out of the COVID-19 lockdown, specifically to the Caribbean, and maybe share some advice as how that can be taken advantage of. So just ponder on that for a second, and while you do so, I want to let everybody know out there that our next session is next week, Tuesday, same time, same place, and we're going to talk about the e-commerce landscape of Jamaica with Gregory. So make sure to check out the event section in either Facebook or LinkedIn and register to be notified when we go live. I am very intrigued to learn more from our guests, because Jamaica is one of those things that I usually just associate. I know it's bad to say, Bob Marley and nice beaches, but in terms of that business and industry element, I have so many questions, and I'm sure you do as well. So maybe it's an opportunity for you to look at an audience that you did not think exists before. So make sure to just smash that like button to get that notification. And I'm going to head over to, I just want to give Tyrell a shout out. He made a comment stating customer education goes hand in hand with implementation of digital tools, So thanks for that, Tyrell. So let us go to Christianne and give her point of view.
So Pauline, just to clarify, your question was, what opportunity have we found in COVID-19? In the Caribbean?
So for those who are out there maybe thinking, it's doomsday, what maybe a gap that you see needs to be filled?
So for me, that's just a really broad, I can give you a really broad answer, and it's just massive adoption of digital business and online, doing anything online. It's something that I think it was pushed forward really rapidly, and it's here to stay. if COVID-19 disappears tomorrow, we're not going to change the way we buy groceries anymore. We're not going to change the way we shop online. I'm still going to order my price mod online. I'm still going to want to order, the goods that I'm used to getting online and getting them delivered downstairs. And for me, that has really, really pushed our retail experience into this fantastic place. What I think in terms of non-retail goods, such as financial services, we need to continue pushing to reach that level of convenience with our users. Similar to Chris, at the bank the other day, it's a popular retail bank. They misspelled my name on my online banking platform. The bank did that. They have like 9,000 pieces of ID, right? Because they ask you for everything, including your footprint. And they misspelled my name. And I emailed, I called, I submitted in the secure thing. I did all these things and they would not change my name. And eventually a lady tells me, well, you need to come in to the branch and change your name. And I said, that's not going to happen. So either you sort out your stories, or my name is just going to be incorrect. I'm going to move all my money to another bank and it's going to be over, because I'm not walking in to change my name on your digital asset that you did wrong. So, we have this massive opportunity to be able to digitally meet our client needs. And it was eventually done, not online. It wasn't an automated thing, but similarly to what Chris said, they were able to use email, use a scan of an ID, and, use technology sort of clumsily to get it done. I don't mind that. I understand that we're in that place where we're going to be clumsy. We're in that place, but the opportunities are huge for us to continue. Every time an issue comes up and you say, well, the person needs to come in, or they need to come collect something, or they need to come sign something, how can we look at each of those instances and start eliminating it? And that's what's really exciting for me, is meeting those opportunities.
I love that point of view, because you also have a lot of graduates who may not necessarily have a direction in terms of a job, but based on this gap that you've realized, maybe it's an opportunity for them to learn about the digital space so they can be part of a digital adoption team. So people don't have to come in to take their ID to change their name. So Chris, what about you? We'll close off with your perspective.
I love that story, and that's the logic behind having to update something that's digital physically. I just think that's hilarious. But the two things. Firstly, banks have a big opportunity to digitize everything that they're doing in terms of and e-commerce is a big part of that in terms of how you apply for an e-commerce merchant account. Moving that to a fully digitized process in terms of applying online, submitting your documentation online, getting your approval online, accepting the signature, maybe standardizing how that KYC documentation is submitted, having a trusted third party that allows you to do that, I think is just in finance in general, to be fair. I mean, I'm more biased obviously towards the e-commerce side, but specifically, there are a lot of opportunities out there, but specifically to drill down to one, I think marketplaces right now, online marketplaces, because for a couple of reasons. There have been a lot that have been set up recently, but they're for good reason, because there are a lot of small merchants in the Caribbean, and sole traders, they have a couple of products. They might not have all the wherewithal to set up full-blown website, get the banking account, work with us, get the software developer, all of the stuff that goes with that. I think marketplaces are a really great opportunity just for the regional economy to get people online quickly, easily, cost effectively, to be able to sell their goods and services. I think that's a really interesting space right now, and there are a lot of players, so it will be intriguing to see who rides that out and wins that battle.
Great. So that's a awesome positive note to end this session with. Thanks again to Christianne for sharing her time with us. If you want to connect with, let me just multitasking here, right? If you want to connect with either of our guests today, you can head over to the events page and you can connect to their profiles and ask any questions we may have missed in the live session. Don't forget to subscribe to the First Atlantic Commerce page to be notified for future events, because I am pretty nerding out about the conversations that we have ahead, and I wish that you can join us to ask your questions, because I learned so much from this session today. So guys, have a great day ahead. Make sure to mask up and sanitize, and I'll see you next week, Tuesday, for FAC Live.
Yeah, bye everybody.